Welcome, and thank you for joining us today for the U.S. Congressional District 18 Candidates Forum. I am Nancy Shepard, President of the League of Women Voters of Palo Alto. This year, we are proudly celebrating both our 100th anniversary of the League, but also the passage of the 19th Amendment enabling women the right to vote. The League of Women Voters envisions a democracy where every person has the desire, the right, the knowledge, and the confidence to participate. We are a nonpartisan political organization that encourages informed and active participation of citizens in government through education. Our organization has two distinct roles. One is advocacy for public policy issues that we have studied. The other is voter services, bringing voters impartial information on ballot initiatives and candidates. Voter services is the hat we are wearing today. In presenting this forum, where you can learn about the candidates running to represent our area in the halls of U.S. Congress. Our co-sponsors for this forum are the League of Women Voters, Los Altos Mountain View area, League of Women Voters, Southwest Santa Clara Valley, and the League of Women Voters, South San Mateo County. And we are being supported by MidPen Media. I'd like to remind everyone that the candidates and our co-sponsors have all agreed to participate under guidelines set for this forum. Also, because this is a Zoom webinar, only the candidates and the moderators will have their mics activated. Due to the nature of a webinar, we cannot provide technical assistance for viewers, and the chat function will be disabled. This forum is being live streamed right now on one of MidPen Media's local channels and will be rebroadcast in the coming weeks. The League will also make this available on our YouTube channel. You can find the link for this website at lwvpaloalto.org. Note that whenever this recording is aired, it must be shown in its entirety to ensure that no statements are used out of context. All candidates have agreed to this requirement. Conducting a candidates forum as a Zoom webinar is a new experience for all of us, and we hope you will be patient as we learn together. Now, I'd like to turn the program over to our moderator, Rachel Kellerman.
Thank you, Nancy. This forum provides the opportunity to hear the two candidates who are running to represent California's 18th district in United States Congress. The candidates are Ms. Anna Eshoo and Mr. Rishi Kumar. Before we begin, I'd like to go over the format for our session. We are scheduled to be finished by 5 p.m. and to help keep us on track, we will be keeping time using a computerized stopwatch. Candidate speaking order was determined prior to this event via a randomized process. We will begin with a 2-minute opening statement from each candidate. We will then have a question and answer period. Candidates will be called on in alternating order for each question, and they will have up to 2 minutes each to respond. Questions for this forum have been solicited in advance from all those who signed up to attend. We have screened the questions to avoid duplication. Most questions centered on these important topics, and we hope to cover most of them this evening. Climate and the environment, COVID-19 and healthcare, the economy, social justice, government accountability and partisanship, transportation, gun violence, and our digital world. If time allows, we will also be taking questions from the audience during the forum. You are welcome to send your questions for the candidates via the Q&A box you see at the bottom of the screen. Please keep your questions succinct and directed to both candidates. These questions will also be screened. We will then have a closing statement from each candidate of up to 1.5 minutes. Candidates will speak in the reverse order of the opening statements. Now, let us begin with Mr. Kumar's 2-minute opening statement, followed by Ms. Eshoo's opening statement. Mr. Kumar, please begin.
It's a delight to be here. I thank the League of Women Voters for organizing this. My story begins as a graduate student, mechanical engineering in this country, today running for Congress. And that's a very American dream. And this is really what makes this country so special. And today I'm a high-tech executive running for Saratoga City Council member. And I believe in people-centric values. What does that mean? So as a council member in my first term, we took on some big challenges. We took on rising burglaries as a challenge. And through a series of innovative measures, we dropped burglaries by 47%, the largest drop compared to any other Silicon Valley city. We took on rising water rates, San Jose Water Company, and through a water app we rolled out to make protest easier, we have reduced rejected water rates for 1 million people, 8 water rate increases that had never been tried before. So I believe in problem solving, and that's the reason why I'm running for Congress. There are some big challenges. We have aging politicians. We have issues with our COVID-19 situation with fire. And while our politicians play partisan politics, they're not really addressing the challenges of the people. And that's why I'm running. I would love to seek your support for this run. This is about a new energy and new leadership for Congress and impacting and addressing the top challenges of the United States. I'm ready to serve, and I would be very honored to have your support. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Kumar. Ms. Eshoo.
Thank you to the League for hosting us, and to those at home. I hope that you and your families are well and safe. This has been a remarkable year in that it has been a very tough one. I've drawn on my knowledge of the policies, of the resources, of the expertise that is in the federal government to alleviate suffering and to address the issues that need to be addressed in our country. The recent fire, with my experience, I was able to tap assistance early on with FEMA and with the Department of Defense for my constituents. In Congress, I'm really very proud to be the first woman to chair the Health Subcommittee, where I've written legislation to increase medical research, certainly in the areas of deadly diseases, including many of the cancers that we have not conquered yet. I support the Affordable Care Act and was very proud to have written some sections of it. I think we should expand it, and I think a public option should be added to it. To lower the cost of prescription drugs, I have voted for legislation that allows the government to directly negotiate with drug companies, which is exactly what we do today with the Veterans Administration. My legislation to cut maternal deaths and infant mortality, as well as my legislation to ban the selling of e-cigarettes online, both have passed the House of Representatives. I'm proud that my work has expanded broadband into underserved areas, that I'm a co-sponsor of the Green New Deal, and that I voted to keep the United States in the Paris Climate Agreement. My top priorities remain addressing COVID, that we beat it, that we have a vaccine that is safe and effective, and that it will be distributed equitably, and that we will have a recovery in terms of our economy that is enhanced by infrastructure, new roads, new bridges, information infrastructure.
Sorry to interrupt, Ms. Eshoo, but I'm going to need to ask you to, we'll ask some wonderful questions. You'll get a chance to talk about those topics, I'm sure. Thank you so much. Now it's time for candidates to answer your questions. Mr. Kumar, you will answer first, followed by Ms. Eshoo. For the second question, Ms. Eshoo will go first, and we will continue to alternate who goes first and who goes second until the end of the Q&A session. Candidates, a reminder, you have up to 2 minutes to answer each question, but shorter answers will help us get to more of the amazing questions that were submitted for this forum. So Mr. Kumar, you're first. Question number 1, followed by Ms. Eshoo. More than 200,000 Americans have died because of COVID-19. What solutions do you propose to the problem of inadequate testing and tracing capacity? And what are the essential ingredients of a post-COVID economic recovery? 2 minutes, please.
Sure. So COVID-19 has impacted us. It has brought the American economy down to its knees. And we are in a terrible tragedy. 200,000 people have died already. And we hear of a spike. So this is a very, very unpleasant situation. So let's talk about how we need to get out of this. Firstly, we need to accelerate vaccination. It's very, very important. We also need to roll out a preparedness plan, which was sorely lacking. Some of the countries of the world, including third world countries, did so much better than the US. So we can do a lot better too, in terms of where we are today. And when you look at the healthcare challenges, we need a social net as well. You know, we need a Medicare for all plan that unfortunately Congressman Eshoo does not support today. But we need to establish these types of social nets, which are a lot more relevant today in a pandemic. And let's talk about the post-COVID-19 world. You know, what are the challenges? The challenges are related to economy. You know, there are millions of people who have filed for unemployment. There are millions of people who have filed who don't have healthcare, who don't have health insurance. And unfortunately in America, one of the few developed nations where your healthcare is tied to an unemployment. So that's creating a lot of pressure. So we need to establish a Medicare for all solution going forward, because that is extremely important. We also need to bring back manufacturing to this country to increase the size of our economy and provide jobs for Americans. We were completely inadequate when it came to our PPEs and things that are required by our frontline workers, the healthcare workers. And we have to bring manufacturing back from China. It has become a national defense issue. And we have to ensure that we are providing the social net for every American so that we are successful as an economy and we are successful as a nation. We are at a tipping point. We need the right leadership.
Mr. Kumar, sorry. Thank you very much. It's a big question. Do you need me to repeat? If at any time you need me to repeat the question, please don't hesitate.
If you do that, please, I think.
Yes, there are some big questions. More than 200,000 Americans have died because of COVID-19. What solutions do you propose to the problem of inadequate testing and tracing capacity? And what are the essential ingredients of a post-COVID economic recovery?
Mm-hmm. Well, number one, we are not going to have an economic recovery until we actually beat the virus. Certainly, vaccines are on the horizon, but the situation that we have found ourselves in is because we did not have an effective national plan. We had 50 states going at it in different ways. I think there needs to be an acceleration of point of care testing so that people don't have to go wait in line, have the test sent to a lab, wait for the lab to process them. Some tests are being returned and the effectiveness of them, because they are so tardy, really don't have meaning to them. So we need a national plan. I think we need a new administration with a national plan. Testing, tracing, and the therapeutics to do that accurately at home and in a very easy and speedy way, I think will add to the public health efforts. When we speak about the economy, we all want the economy, we all want to be opened up. We want to return to what we remember, I think, kind of in a distant past now, of what was normal. But that can't happen until we wrestle the pandemic to the ground. Now, one of the things that I have fought very hard for as a chair of the health subcommittee is there not be any political interference with the science, not with CDC, not with FDA, not with any of the federal health agencies. And so we're very hopeful about a vaccine. There has to be equitable distribution of the vaccine. And I think that that's a very important, important policy that has to be followed. And hopefully with a new administration, we will be united behind a national policy, not only in terms of vaccinations, but testing, tracing, and all of the equipment that is needed for states, local governments, county governments to conduct the public health efforts.
Thank you. Thank you. Another healthcare question, Ms. Eshoo, this will go to you first. And just a reminder, just to keep an eye on that stopwatch. I know these are big questions. Americans are concerned with their healthcare options. Do you support Medicare for all? And what is your solution for ensuring all Americans have quality, affordable healthcare?
Well, I have all of my public life, I have worked on universal healthcare. That means everyone has healthcare. Where the differences come is that we don't all agree on exactly how to do it or the avenues to reach universality. My preference is that we expand the Affordable Care Act, the ACA. The ACA today still remains the most significant health legislation passed since the establishment of Medicare and Medicaid. And I think in many ways it may be undervalued. It's not perfect. So it needs to be, to have additions to it. I think a very important one in terms of expansion is a public option. I voted for that 10 years ago. The Senate didn't do it. But I prefer that we build on the Affordable Care Act. Why would we dismantle something that is already there and has tremendous benefits in terms of covering 133 million people when it comes to pre-existing health conditions, children being able to stay on their parents' health policy until the age of 26, no lifetime limits anymore. That was my legislation that became a part of it. So I look forward to expanding the Affordable Care Act, adding to it, and I think that that would serve the American people very well. But universality has always been my goal from the time I served on the Board of Supervisors in San Mateo County to my service in the Congress.
Thank you very much. Mr. Kumar, and please, once again, let me know if you'd like me to repeat any of the questions.
Please do. Please repeat the question.
Sure. Americans are concerned with their healthcare options. Do you support Medicare for all? And what is your solution for ensuring all Americans have quality, affordable healthcare?
Great. So I really respect Congresswoman Eshoo's 28 years of service, but unfortunately, Congresswoman Eshoo does not support Medicare for all, and I do, and that's a clear differentiator between our runs. And there is really just one Medicare for all bill, and that's HR 1384, sponsored by Pramila Jayapal from Washington. And there are 118 congressmen from the country that have signed up for it, not Congressman Eshoo. And quite a few Bay Area congressional members have signed up for it, not Congressman Eshoo. Now, when you look at the campaign contributions, number one from pharma in the United States Congress, that's the record of Congressman Eshoo. And the legislations that she has passed has increased the price of healthcare. That is a tragedy because right now, families are making a compromise between food or shelter or healthcare. And healthcare is the one that gets pushed out. And that's a tragedy that only plays out in America. We need that social net that I talk about. We need Medicare for all. We need 1384 to pass. And we need everyone to step up and support that. And when we win this election next year, I will become the 119th congressional member to support Medicare for all. That is the imperative that we have today. Extremely important for our working families, for our people. And we have to get away from big money in politics. I don't take any PAC money, no special interest group money. And my run is for the people. People-centric behavior And that's what I pledge to do. I would be very honored to get your support based on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kumar. This next question goes to you first, followed by Ms. Eshoo. This has been an unprecedented wildfire season in California. What would you do to address California's ongoing wildfire issues? Mr. Kumar, you're first.
Yes. So wildfires has been a big problem. When you look at the 2019, we had about 100,000 acres that burned down. 2020, we are already at 2 million acres. That's a significant problem. It's a climate change problem, but it's also a problem of regulation. When you look at how we have increased the logging fees, the permit fees, they have essentially led to the logging companies leaving our state. And now we have a lot of dead trees sitting around, which is an inferno waiting to happen. So we have to address that. We have to come up with smart legislation. Congressman Eshoo's record on this has not been very sound. You know, this has been a problem in California for many years. We could have done a lot more. We have to team up with the state and the federal resources to ensure that we are going to be addressing this for the near future. When you look at climate change, for example, you know, I support the Green New Deal. We need to roll out a clean tech economy. We need to reduce the greenhouse gas. Transportation, you know, we have a plan, we have a vision plan to roll out high-speed tunnel-based system, zero greenhouse gas transportation. You know, from a greenhouse gas perspective, that is the #1 factor. We need to have a plan for that. And unfortunately, I haven't seen our elected leaders coming up with a real plan. It's a lot of talk, but no real action. We need to get engaged with these types of issues and challenges. And this is how we can roll back the fire challenge we have, the issue with climate change that we have, and so many other challenges, economic pressures as well that have been imposed upon people based upon evacuations and so many other factors that are in play. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Eshoo, what would you do to address California's ongoing wildfire issues?
Well, first of all, I think that we all know that the exaggeration of wildfires, they are wilder, they are faster, they are hotter, hurricanes are, flooding is, that these are all effects from global warming. So climate change has a huge role in this, but there are things that we can do and should. In meeting with the chief of CAL FIRE in California, he was telling me that the fire plan for the state has not been updated since for almost 100 years. Isn't that amazing? And the elements that need to be upgraded are the following. We need better forest protection. We know that when the underbrush heats up, that it can explode when the lightning strikes, and that's exactly what did happen. We need a whole new plan on the core of firefighters that can be engaged. That has diminished over time, and we saw firsthand how difficult it was to get firefighters to our congressional district and to the small communities where we lost almost 1,000 homes and ended up with 77,000 evacuees. So the firefighters, the forest plan, but also climate change really does have to be addressed because without addressing that, we won't make the necessary headway.
Thank you, Ms. Eshoo. You're going to go first for this question, and it'll allow you to expand on your view of climate change. Mm-hmm. A growing majority of Americans think climate change is happening. What is your stance on climate change, and what is one thing you would do to make an impact on this problem?
Well, if I had a magic wand, the first thing I would do is to eliminate any dependence on fossil fuels. We need to move to clean fuels. We saw, I think it was this last week, that Governor Newsom announced that by 2035, that every car in California will be an electric vehicle. So in moving to a clean fuel economy, we will lower, obviously, what is emitted in terms of toxicity, what heats our oceans, what heats the air, what generates the velocity of the storms that we are enduring. So that would be my number one pick, so to speak. That would have the largest impact. We also need to rejoin the world community. I said that I voted to keep the United States in the Paris Climate Agreement. I believe that with the new administration, that the United States of America will rejoin the world community, be back on the world stage, and really exert true American leadership on this. We are a great emitter, but so are other countries. We have to work on this with all countries in the world in order to make the progress that I think all human beings want and need.
Thank you, Ms. Eshoo. Mr. Kumar, what
Yes.
is the one thing you would do to impact this climate change problem?
So climate change is a ticking time bomb. You know how you see it in the movies, 10, 9, 8, and we are going down and kaboom, right? So we have very limited time. We have to do something about it. And, you know, there are two things that I would like to do. One is a clean tech economy. Let's create more jobs and let's reduce the dependency on fossil fuel. And then also let's reduce the greenhouse gas. And transportation is the number one factor behind an increase in greenhouse gas. Number one factor. And we have to roll out a plan. We have to roll out a plan. The plan today is inadequate because every urban economy, we are increasing the greenhouse gas. We need to look at mass transportation systems. We have a vision plan, a tunnel-based system, zero greenhouse gas, connecting different cities of Silicon Valley. We call it a mega Silicon Valley, 21 counties connected, less than 21 minutes. And now you have spread the housing out, Stockton to San Jose in less than 15 minutes. You're creating jobs. You have grown a mega Silicon Valley economy. This is the type of vision we need. And unfortunately, Congresswoman Eshoo has been lacking. She has only supported 3 bills during a 28-year-long congressional career. Now, last week, let's talk about HR 4447. You know, Congresswoman Eshoo talks about pulling our dependency from fossil fuel. But this one, you know, we did not have Ro Khanna support this. He voted against it. Congresswoman Eshoo supported it as a yes. And you know what it does? It's basically going to increase the federal subsidies for fossil fuels. As your congressman, I would never support such a bill because that's not the future that we need to define for America and the world. Congressman Eshoo has also done a couple other bills. When you look at the Electric Cars Act, or you look at the Energy Innovation and Carbon Dividend Act, they have all been very inadequate. Co-sponsorship of the Green New Deal. There are 101 who have co-sponsored it. And you know, the ones who really should get the credit are the ones who have initiated this bill. It's a really good bill. It's a resolution, sorry. It's a resolution. Okay. And you know, just signing up, there are 118 who have signed up for Medicare for All. So co-sponsorship does not mean a whole lot. We would like to see vision.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kumar. Thank you, Mr. Kumar. You will be the first one on this next question, Mr. Kumar. Killings of unarmed Black Americans by police sparked demonstrations across the country and in our district. What specific steps will you take to increase police accountability to the communities that they serve?
So the recent murders of George Floyd and you know, it has caused a lot of angst in America. You know, as Black people can walk, they can breathe, they can drive, because there have been so many incidents of murders of our Black brothers and sisters. And that is very, very unfortunate. So we have a policy on that. And the policy is related to addressing some of the core challenges around this. So for example, funding is a big issue. You know, we have to figure out, you know, how we can reallocate funding that currently goes to our police departments into other areas. For example, you know, we spend 58 hours on shooting training for a police personnel, and we only spend 8 hours on de-escalation. Now, we need to increase the amount of time for de-escalation training. Many of you might remember the case that happened here, a very unfortunate event where a Vietnamese woman was standing with a potato peeler in her home. A police officer entered and he shot her down. We need to provide cultural training, extremely important. And we also need to ensure that there is accountability. We have to figure out, we have to run through investigations. We need to form citizens committee and make sure that there is accountability built into how we are addressing this challenge, because it has gone on for hundreds of years. It's time we address this once and for all. I would like to talk about how Dr. King mentions this and how do we move forward. No one is free until we all are free. And that's the challenge we have. And we have to address this once and for all. And we have to, together as Americans, move forward in harmony. This systemic racism is impacting our generation, is impacting people, it's impacting Black lives, and it's time we put an end to it.
Thank you, Mr. Kumar. Ms. Eshoo, once again, what specific steps would you take to increase police accountability in the communities that they serve?
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for the question. It's a very important one, and we see how the country is being torn apart right now because of, I think, a system that really is not working the way it should. We had a major legislation in the House that we passed, we have sent to the Senate on policing, and it contains many, many reforms relative to chokeholds and many other elements to it. Number one, I think that there is, we need to reform the training of police officers. There are some police departments in the country that take high school graduates, they train them for less than a month, and they put them out on the street. That cannot work. There has to be accountability in the system. We just learned, I think it was yesterday, that there is no justice for Breonna Taylor. Not one officer is being held accountable for that young woman's life. That says to all of us that something is broken. And so we need better training. There is, for in some jurisdictions, they say cut the funding. I think we have to look at who is sent, what team is sent to the problem. There may be domestic violence, you need social workers. If there are mental health issues, you need mental health workers also working with peace officers. But the legislation that the House passed, I was proud to support it. Karen Bass from Southern California was the major architect of it. The Congressional Black Caucus really helped to design that legislation. I think it would serve our country very, very well.
Thank you, Ms. Eshoo. You'll have a chance to perhaps expand on some of those thoughts because the next question is first for you. Do you consider systemic racism a problem in the United States? If yes, what steps would you take personally and as this district's representative to begin to dismantle systemic racism? If no, why not?
Well, the term systemic means all systems. If there's anything that COVID-19 has laid bare are the inequities in our society. And so as the chair of the Health Subcommittee, we have a great deal of work to do and we have legislation to address it. In my opening statement, I talked about the maternal and infant mortality rates in the United States and legislation to address that. If you're a Black woman, of all industrialized countries in the world, the United States of America is the most dangerous place for a Black woman to give birth. And the inequities relative to the pandemic. And that's why I spoke about a system of distribution that has equity to it. When the vaccine is approved by the FDA. So the inequities in our healthcare system, the inequities in our what's called our justice system, I think are really key areas. Now, of course, the committee that I chair, that's where so much of the legislation is created, and that's why I just made the points that I did. But I don't think that there's anyone that can say that there's any system in our country that doesn't have some form of bias or discrimination in it. I think the best thing that's happening is that there are people that are demonstrating very peacefully, but with a great voice to change all of that. And we have an opportunity to change it by voting on November 3rd.
Thank you, Ms. Eshoo. Mr. Kumar, do you consider systemic racism a problem? If yes, what steps would you personally take as this district's representative to begin to dismantle it? If no, why not?
Yes, I do believe we have systemic racism. How can we have an America that believes in justice for all when we have such blatant prejudice? When you look at the incidents that have happened with George Floyd and so many of our brothers and sisters who have been murdered, there is a problem. There is a systemic problem that we need to purge from the very essence of our American society. We need to purge it once and for all. It has persisted for hundreds of years, and it's time we move forward and find a resolution. We need to all converge with our thoughts, ideas. There has been social unrest happening right now on the streets for many, many months now, and it erupts again and again. I don't think so it will go away. It will not go away because it has been pent up for too long, because it emerges. I remember the time of Rodney King. That was when we saw the race riots. And every few years, we see a repeat of that. It's time we took some real action. So what do we need to do? We need to conduct a root cause analysis of what the challenges are. I think part of the challenge is that our police officers, there is no accountability. You look at the recent cases, our police officers have not had to face any punitive damages or any punishment. So we need to ensure that justice is going to be served, because that's how we can prevent this type of happening again. We also need to teach cultural bias. Education and training is extremely important. And this needs to start from at the very basic level. As part of that initial training, we have to provide our officers the elements of bias training. This is how we will slowly and gradually make changes. But it has to happen quickly now, because there are deaths happening in America, and there are serious challenges imposed upon people, not just upon Black people, but also there is racism happening in every strata of society. Recently, we have seen that. It's time we all converged our resources, collaborated, and move forward to address this once and for all.
Thank you, Mr. Kumar. Mr. Kumar, you're going first with this question. It's a long one. It's important. Many people across the country are concerned with the decay of democracy, including low voter turnout among young people, infringement of voting rights, and too much money in politics. Please specify the steps you think are the most important for Congress to take to strengthen democratic institutions in the United States.
So this is a big problem right now, because when I look at some stats, only 19% of our youth are voting. Big money in politics is dominating right now. And we see around us, politicians get a lot of money from PACs and special interest groups. We have pledged to not accept any PAC money, any special interest group money. In fact, I would like to end Citizens United. And unfortunately, Congressman Anna Eshoo has gotten an A rating from End Citizens United, an organization that is supposed to try to end Citizens United. Why is that? When Congressman Anna Eshoo is the #1 recipient of pharma money in United States Congress, a lot of PAC money flows into Congressman Eshoo's campaign chest. And that's the reason why certain types of legislations have been passed, because we are favoring the industry. We need to favor the people. And this is how we can roll back the power back to the American people. This is the travesty playing out in American politics. There is an establishment in Washington that plays ball with the lobbyists that are not responding to the people. And we have to figure out how to address that. I'll tell you how we'll address that. by electing the right kind of leaders. Extremely important for us to think carefully before we vote. Now, if we can restore the integrity of American politics, we bring in people who will operate from a standpoint of ethical integrity, this will bring everybody to engage with our democracy. Why are people not voting? Because they are completely disillusioned with our politicians. There are aging politicians who never seem to want to leave Washington and churning out activity for the sake of activity. We need to get away from that. This is how we can bring America back together, and we can handle the challenges of COVID-19. We can handle the challenge of the fire that are going on, economy, healthcare. This is how we'll bring it back together. It's time for change, and the time is now. This is how we can get it done.
Thank you. I'll repeat the question. It was very long. Many people across the country are concerned with the decay of democracy, including low voter turnout, among young people, infringement of voting rights, and too much money in politics. Please specify the steps you think are most important for Congress to take to strengthen democratic institutions in the United States.
Well, I think first of all, it's a big question, and it's a very important one, and it has many aspects to it. Number one, we need to restore the Voting Rights Act, and I have voted to do so. That legislation is sitting in the bottom drawer of Mitch McConnell. I think everyone recalls that the Supreme Court gutted it. They really ripped the heart out of the Voting Rights Act, and our beautiful John Lewis went to the Senate to testify, asking them to adopt the legislation that we passed in the House. That would bring back and protect the voting rights of millions of people in different states in our country, mostly southern states. Secondly, I have a great deal of faith in the youngest and the largest generation in terms of voting, because they did turn out to vote in the 2018 elections. But we can do more to make voting much easier. We can lower the voting age. We can make sure that, that states really do move to all ballot voting, so that we make it easier for everyone to vote. I introduced legislation so that when we do have the big day to vote, that it's a national holiday, so people don't have to choose as to whether they need to go to work or stand in line at a polling station, that it would be a national holiday. And I think that that would help as well. When it comes to money, special interests, transparency is absolutely essential. Rishi raises the issue that I raise money. Of course I raise money. If I have to use money to make campaign signs, to send out messages, to buy stamps, to do all the things that are part of a campaign. But everyone knows who has made a contribution and what that contribution is. One of the most important reforms is to get rid of the dark money, where we don't know who has contributed, we don't know how much they have contributed, and that's why to end Citizens United is supporting me.
Thank you. Ms. Eshoo, you'll get first crack at this question. What can Congress do to regulate our digital world in a principled way? Europe has the General Data Protection Regulation. Can our federal government copy that or pass something similar?
Well, we have, if we were to adopt what the Europeans have, it really doesn't stand the test of constitutionality in the United States. Now, Congresswoman Lofgren and I have put together privacy legislation online to protect every American's privacy online, and the academics and others have said that it is singularly the most comprehensive privacy legislation that's been introduced. It's moving slowly. I would have to admit that. Once COVID hit, really the attention of the Congress has been swept up into the immediate needs of the American people, their unemployment, their unemployed, the need to fund so much of what is needed to address the pandemic. But here's what I think about that legislation. I think that it will be the template in a new administration to take up because it's very deep, it's very broad. It's not just going at one slice of this. And so I'm very proud of the work that we've done together. And there is bipartisan support, academicians, stakeholders, consumer organizations are supporting the legislation. So I'm very proud of it.
Thank you, Ms. Eshoo. Mr. Kumar, what can Congress do to regulate our digital world in a principled way?
I would just like to address the PAC money first.
Sir, Mr. Kumar, you need to actually answer the question as asked. You will have a time in your closing statement if you'd like to revisit some issues.
Okay. So, essentially, this is a question of technological illiteracy, which is what one of the congressional members refers to Congress. This is Silicon Valley, and we need tech literate congressional members. And unfortunately, that has been missing. I'll give you an example. I come from the software industry. I understand the world of data very well. And from a standpoint of the types of bills that I'm going to support, that includes the California Consumer Privacy Act, that includes bills like that was rolled out in United Kingdom, the General Data Protection Regulation. I also support the Internet Bill of Rights. These are types of bills that we need to roll out to protect the privacy of American people. But here is what happened in 2016. It all came to fore with Cambridge Analytica and Facebook. And where is Facebook? Facebook is in our congressional district. And unfortunately, Congressman Eshoo was completely unprepared and out of touch with what was happening in Facebook. Now, as a congressional rep of Silicon Valley, I would protect people's privacies with simple regulations. This is what it takes. Simple policies to protect people. And this is what Congresswoman Eshoo should have done. And unfortunately, it played out in a congressional hearing. A lot of talk. There are spoof videos of that currently on YouTube that you can go find of how inept our congressional leaders were. You look at the antitrust hearing again from a few weeks back. I mean, that was a disaster too. A lot of activity for the sake of activity, but not really addressing challenges. We need able leaders to step up and address the people challenges. And I can promise you that I will take the right action to protect people and to ensure the integrity of people's private data. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Kumar. Mr. Kumar, you're first up for this question. They don't get any easier. Bay Area residents view traffic congestion and the lack of an integrated public transportation network as major problems. What is one innovative solution a member of Congress can implement to address this?
Yes, this is a very, very important issue which I've been talking about. And I would like to say that Congresswoman Eshoo has unfortunately failed in 28 years. You look at the dot-com boom, there was a big problem with traffic, but I haven't seen a vision plan. I've seen her statements, candidate statements. They are missing with the accomplishments. They don't have a traffic vision. They don't have a transportation vision. This is what we need our elected leaders to bring this type of vision. Problem-solving skills is what we talk about. We are the heart of the innovation economy of the world right here. The 19th largest economy in the world is right here in Silicon Valley. California is the 6th largest economy because of Silicon Valley. And where are we? Where are we with traffic? There are people leaving. Back in 2015, a net 24,000 people entered Silicon Valley. Fast forward 2017, a net 3,000 people left Silicon Valley. We are losing ground. We are losing talent. They are going to Seattle. They're going to Austin. Traffic, quality of life is a big challenge. Greenhouse gas. So we need to address that. We have a vision plan that Congresswoman Eshoo has not demonstrated in 28 years. You can go and check her candidate statement. You look at all the data points we have on our website. We talk about 21 minutes, 21 counties, building a mega Silicon Valley, expanding out high-speed transportation from point A to point B. 21 counties connected with Silicon Valley, a much more vibrant, bigger economy, many more affordable housing, lot more affordable housing all across California. in these 21 counties, and now they have access to jobs of Silicon Valley. And this is how we can build a mega Silicon Valley, create a tunnel-based system, zero greenhouse gas, high-speed transportation system that could potentially travel up to 750 miles per hour. It's not going to happen tonight. It's going to happen with a vision plan. We have a vision plan. I promise you in my first 2 years, we'll get that work started, because the very future of Silicon Valley is contingent upon making choices like this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kumar. Ms. Eshoo, Bay Area residents view traffic congestion and lack of an integrated public transportation network as major problems. What one innovative solution can a member of Congress implement to address this?
Well, I am exceedingly proud of not only having had the vision when there was an attempt to build and tear up the peninsula with a high-speed rail system. I said that we could have high-speed rail because we have Caltrain. And so I set about working with locally elected officials. I don't know where you were on that, Rishi, but we came up with a plan. And I secured the money to electrify Caltrain so that it will be cleaner, no more diesel trains. It will be faster, carry more people, built by American workers, and connect in a very effective and efficient way, because it is the spine of our transportation system on the peninsula. We now have the opportunity to make sure that the operating funds will be assured for this system with what's on the ballot, double R, and of course I support that. Together with the Bay Area delegation, we have secured over $900 million for the BART extensions. So I think that my record on supporting the right kind of transportation mode for the Bay Area so that there are interconnections and as a federal partner will help to, I've more than helped to get the job done.
Thank you. We only have time for one more quick question. You just have a minute, 30 seconds for it. We've had a lot of questions come in about what are your reactions about President Trump's nomination of Judge Amy Coney Barrett to take Ruth Bader Ginsburg's place. What, if anything, can the Congress do about the Supreme Court nominee? Just a minute and a half, unfortunately, for that. And Ms. Eshoo, you will go first.
Well, first of all, in my view, no one can ever fill her shoes. So this is a nomination of an individual. It's not a surprise in terms of her philosophy. My deepest disappointment is that Mitch McConnell has the time to rush this, and it has never been done before in the history of our country, while people are actually participating in an election to take on a nomination and a hearing. That he has time to do that, but he doesn't have time to address the great needs of the American people during this pandemic. We sent the HEROES Act to the Senate in May. People's unemployment benefits have run out. The needs are really so great right here at home and across the country. So it looks like there will be hearings. I think Mitch McConnell will rush to get the job done, and but we are going to have an election, and the American people are going to weigh in and speak and make their determinations known as to whether they think this is unfair and whether we can do much better for our democracy.
Thank you. Mr. Kumar, just 1.5 minutes or under, please. Your reaction to the appointment.
It seems like we are, it's a Groundhog Day happening. You know, it happened in 2016 with Justice Scalia, and we lost a fierce leader, a fierce woman activist in Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Now, you know, the easy part is we need a woman in this particular role, because we don't have enough women who are serving today as in our justice system. Now, when you look at the challenges this will impose as we go through the process of nomination, which President Trump has started, it's going to divide the country. And I feel terrible about this, because Washington is already all about partisan politics. And this will really get a lot worse as we hit election day. I wish we wouldn't make these choices that would put so much strain upon the American people. This is a tragedy playing out. But here is what I would like to say, that I believe the nomination should not happen, because I would like to remind people of what Senator Lindsey Graham said, who leads the Judiciary Committee. He said if the same scenario was repeated in 2020, then the Republicans should not go through the nomination as well. And there is a flip-flop. And so this is, I think we have to demonstrate integrity as leaders, because there are people who look up to elected leaders. And that's what I would like to see in this particular scenario.
Thank you, Mr. Kumar. We're going to go really quickly to Ms. Eshoo. You have a minute and a half for your closing statement.
Well, thank you again to the League for hosting us, and to everyone that is tuned in from home. Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg said many wise things in her 87 years of life, but there's one that's really very special to me, and it's the following: fight for the things that you care about, but do it in a way that will lead others to join you. As your representative in the House of Representatives, I have followed that philosophy. I have always worked to draw a Republican partner to co-sponsor my legislation, and I'm very proud of that. 45 of my bills have been signed into law by 4 presidents of both political parties. I'm very proud of that on behalf of my constituents. My effectiveness on behalf of my constituents has really earned wonderful endorsements from healthcare workers, from teachers, to the Sierra Club, to the California League of Conservation Voters, to Planned Parenthood, to the Human Rights Campaign, to the Association of Retired Americans, to the California Democratic Party, to the Young Democrats. And I received an A from the End Citizens United Action Fund, scored 100% with Common Cause. And I'm so proud that Moms Demand Action named me a gun sense candidate. So this is not just a job for me or a title. I have a passion for public service, to serve people, to lift them up, e pluribus unum, out of the many, one. I want to thank everyone for listening in today, and I would be honored, so honored, to have your vote in the upcoming election. Thank you again to the League.
Thank you. Mr. Kumar.
Yes, so I would like to point to my website, rishikumar.com, and it's got a great search box, and search for Tale of Two Candidates. And you will find the inadequacies of Congressman Anna Eshoo's transportation agenda. Now, over the last 28 years, unfortunately, it has fallen short. When you look at the high-speed rail that Congressman Eshoo talks about, it has been nowhere to nowhere. It has been a big disaster. We have spent $70 billion for what? How is it going to help Silicon Valley? This is the problem I find. Lots of legislation, but not a whole lot of impact. I also invite you to look at the website and search for challenging the sacred cows. Congressman Eshoo, unfortunately in Washington, is playing establishment politics and not really serving the people. So when you look at, I have a tweet that I would like to reference here by John Sakota from Menlo Park. What he says is, it took a pandemic and social unrest for Americans to realize that electing the right leaders could be a difference between life and death. And this is really what is happening in America. We are at a tipping point. We are at a tipping point, and we need to ensure that we are analyzing our leaders. What value are they providing? What problems are they solving? And we have to ensure that we pick the right type of leadership to engage. I'm from the innovation economy.
Thank you.
I understand about problem solving and will get stuff done for you. I would be very honored to have your support. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We've just run out of time. Unfortunately, it's been a really interesting discussion. I just want to thank everyone and to encourage people to register to vote, to go and vote, and to be heard on November 3rd. Thank you very much for running for office. We really appreciate your service, both of you.